All right, so we're down at the pump house here. So upon opening the door, the first thing that hit me was a wall of heat. And that heat was all coming from both motor and pump, which has since cooled down, thankfully. But that couldn't be touched with Scala Hania, put it that way. So our pump had lost prime, and then when it lost prime, it run dry, and it kept running. For now, the main issue is that it probably has destroyed our pump. Well, it may not have fully destroyed it, but I can tell you by the heat of it, there probably is seals gone in there. Although it was running and sounded okay, there probably are seals in there. The pump itself, the propeller could be warped. The motor, it's a small little motor. We might get away with it. I'd say the capacitors are gone because when I turned it off and let it sit for a while, upon turning it back on again, it wouldn't run. Now, there's a few things that might do that. And first of which, because we've had a drought this year, we've had a couple of months with no rain at all, our well might have run dry. The other thing is the foot valve could have got stuffed. I don't believe that's the problem. It was changed not that terrible long ago when I tried to get the old well working before we replaced it. Another thing that may have happened is, because of the dry weather as well, our roos weren't collecting any water. So all water that was going into that 10,000 litre tank up there was coming from this. And that was putting this under a lot of pressure, meaning it's having to run an awful lot more after milkings for probably a few hours to top up that tank again. So it may have just naturally got hot, even with the water running through it and keeping it lubricated. It may have got hot to the effect that this here, you can see how loose the fittings have got. If they got heated up and air got sucked in, it would lose its prime as well, and that would cause the same issue. So I don't know, it's a hard one to figure out. Right, first thing to do is get off this by here. That's our feed coming in. So I have a feeling in my head that we're going to be putting a new pump in here. Alright, so we're all disconnected here. I've just these two 13mm nuts loose, and then I can lift this off this tank and take it with me. I made a quick phone call ahead to the place that I bought it, telling them that I was coming up. Kind of trying to convince them to have a look at it while I was there, because it is a wee bit of a journey. I did also say to them, surely there's bound to be a way of fitting something on this that if it does lose prime for any reason, that the pump will shut off and not run dry, because there's no way you can come down here and keep checking it every single day, every hour. Because I think it's an essential thing. It actually should come on these, or it definitely should be recommended when you're picking one up that you put one on. So I have found out that you can get one that goes on here. And if I can get that, whatever it costs, it's going on, because this is never going back together again without some sort of protection to prevent this from happening again. Should be able to lift it off now. Alright, so it's a few hours later. Do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? Well, the only good news I suppose is we might be up and running again very shortly. But if you look at this here, it might look the same, but it's not. This is a brand new pump and motor. So the moral story was, I went over, had a quick look at it, and it became pretty obvious that the impeller in here and a lot of the stuff's actually plastic in there, which I can't understand, but it is. A lot of that stuff, when it gets overheated, melts, just completely disintegrates. It all came down to not having this little box here. This is the difference, and it looks very like the little blue one that I took off the other one. That's the thing that's remarkable about it. It will pick up when the pump loses prime, and it will knock itself off, apparently, and that will stop the pump running when there's no water coming to it. I had to say to the guy in the shop, why on earth didn't come with it in the first place? This was €50, and if I'd have known, especially when I explained it was a shallow well, if I'd have known that that's what this done, I assumed the one that was on it done that. I didn't know that. That's just my own inexperience with these. But surely to God, when you buy a pump like this and it's going into a shallow well, it should be said to you, do you want one of these, and explain to you what it does, because to me it's like having a car with no tyres on it. But at the end of the day, I have to take some responsibility myself for it. I should have done more investigating to see if this was needed. So it's in now anyway, and everything's set up. All's replumbed in here. They had to put a new, we kept our old fitting here, but they had to put a new clock on it. He said it was gone faulty too. So now I just open this valve and we prime it here. There we are. Take all of this old plumber's tape out. Now I'm going to ring my sister, who's up at home there, and I'm going to ask her to turn on the tap from above, just let it run, and hopefully the air bubbles will come out of the upper end. Yeah, blue handle, turn the blue handle lengthwise, the other way, yeah, lengthwise up, so it's facing up, you'll hear a hip of air when you turn it. I'm going to turn this pump on now and tell me when the water comes. You should hear air coming. Right, so the good news is it's working fine. She had me a bit worried there at the beginning because there was no water coming, but turns out she turned off the outlet coming at the bottom of the tank and not the one coming up the wall, which the one I explained to her a million times. It's coming now and the air is all out of it. Just in case you want to actually see the well, got this guy in here. I don't know if you can see in there. That well is full, so there's no issues there. So I just got a bit of timber. I put a couple of bolts on the side so it couldn't slip, and that's how you lift the lid off. It's not much weight to it. I might put a brand new lid on it soon because I'm intending to put a new ring to just lift it up and a new lid to go along with it, because lids, they can get fragile over time. Although that one looks quite good, I still rather put a new lid on it. That is 12 foot deep, so you can see it's not up to the bottom of the last ring. And that's normal for this well. It never comes up to where the pipe goes in. There's an outlet somewhere, I think, or forget what way Dad put it in. It was long before my time, but he did say that it doesn't fill any fuller than that. The water looks lovely and clean. The well itself looks actually very clean inside. Just a bit of debris that fell in from the lid when we lifted it, but yeah, looks alright otherwise. Alright, so that's it up. It's not dirty. No. Just going to open this. I'm going to try to save as much of this pipe as I can. Okay. That's that. Alright, so this is our old foot valve. This is our new one. So quite significantly bigger. At least we have this done. We know it's finished. I'll pop this boy on. Tighten them up. Right. That's it. New foot valve is on. Drop it back in. We're down in this little house now again. It's been a few days later. I honestly think my wife will think I've missed it or something down in this room, because I'm in it that often this last while, and trust me, I don't have, nor do I like being in here that often, but we still have a fairly big issue. So first of all, I have to thank a fella called Mark. I'm not going to give out his second name, but Mark's just a follower, and I think he works at plumbing or whatever. He's from down the country further than where we are, but he has messaged me back and forth about this and given me an awful lot of help. So we've been chatting now this last while, doing video messages back and forth and trying to work this out together, and he's given me a lot of info, and I'm actually learning a lot as I go along. So the loss of prime switch here, I'm just going to explain it, how it works. So basically, if you lost pressure, a feed, this is the feed here coming up from the well, and if this here drops below 1.5 bar, I think it is, or 15 psi, whichever way you want to call it, this here will kick and it will turn off the power to the pump. The problem we're having is we're getting a thing called back pressure. So we have to pump our water up there about 300 metres, and it's quite a steep incline in parts. So we're getting the weight of the water pushing back that pipe, and that's creating back pressure, which is leaving us with a minimum of 2 bar all the time. So this never drops down to 0 like it should. It's always sitting at about 2 bar. If that well does run dry, it's always going to have 2 bar, which means that loss of prime switch is absolutely rendered useless when that's the case. When I fitted this a couple of days ago, the new pump, we have a 10,000 litre tank which was completely empty up there. So I let it run and to fill that tank up. I just said I'll keep an eye on it and see how our well is managing as well, because I've never had a proper look at the well to see how much water it actually produces and how quick it can top itself up. So I run it, I went up, I done a bit of milk, and I came back down, and just by luck I caught it just as it happened. It lost its prime, and then this didn't kick in. No harm done, all right? If I hadn't have looked at it, I would have fried this pump as well. When I looked in the well, it was already after replenishing itself, come back up over the foot valve. But the fact that it lost its prime and it wasn't able to reprime itself without me physically doing it, it was running dry. One of the other things we also done was we changed the settings on these. You have two springs here, which basically this one here, if I remember right, is the one where you adjust inwards, which adjusts how soon the pump kicks in. The other one adjusts when it kicks out. That was another problem, because the fact that this pump here never went below 2, it means the pump wasn't cutting out. We decided we'd raise, by adjusting these, we'd raise when the pump would cut in. So we raised that up to above 2 bar, around about 30 psi, and we run it to have it kicking out at about 55 psi. That instantly increased the pressure that was being driven up. I could see it in the tank, it was filling. I'd never seen speed like it. There was powerful pressure out of it, and it also was still within a safe reason. You want about 25 psi between when it kicks in and kicks out, so it's not kicking in and out too often. The closer them two figures are together, the more that has to kick in and out. So that worked fine, but then the well couldn't cope with that. The well was being emptied too quickly. I don't need high pressure. I'd rather just trickled in, because the spoutings are topping that tank up, so I don't need massive pressure. I can do it overnight at its own pace. And also, I don't need to be starving the well or putting it on the pressure either. I hope I kind of half explained that right. But anyway, this pipe here is the feed pipe going up to the farm above. For us to fix that back pressure, we need to fit a non-return valve. So basically that'll be fitted like that on that line, and the water will only be able to pass through it one way, going up to the farm, but it won't be able to come back. And that'll allow this clock to go back down to 0 where it should be. We can put our settings back to factory. That'll mean the well should be able to keep up, and this loss of prime should work. This should have been on from day one. I didn't know it needed it, and that's just inexperience on my behalf, but I'm learning a valuable lesson. And by the way, I'm not going to throw out my old pump. I'm going to rebuild it. There is nothing wrong with the motor, I found out. I need to put new bearings and new seals in the pump, which I can buy actually quite handy, and have it as a backup pump. So I'm not going to throw the old pump out. You get in there. There we go. Okay. Alright, that's tight enough. Okay, that's all. I'm bringing it back just about where it was at the factory, maybe just a little bit more pressure. One more turn. There she is. Same amount of turns. So to start it, turn this guy. To hold it for a wee while, because at the minute, now you see where it's turning off? That's what it's designed to do, because you see there's 0 pressure on that clock. So what you need to do is turn this and hold it till the pump starts to pump and build pressure. And then when it gets above the low pressure warning, then it'll stay running. So we'll turn it on, hold it. Hopefully it should start to build pressure soon. There she is now. So I need to make a phone call up to my sister here and ask her now, turn off the valve, and see then when it cuts out. It's building up there to 40, just over 40 psi, and I'm just watching it now. Now there's a tap running up at home. I'm just watching to see when it lowers here, how far is it going to go down. Close. Yeah. So about 40, almost 45. One other thing he suggested, which I thought a very good idea, is to run a wire from the pump. So when the pump gets powered on, we'll have a wire running up here, put it on a pole that I can see it playing from the yard on my own house, and put a green light on it. He said a green or red light, you'll be fit to know when it's running or not, because you'll see the light. So, but otherwise, we're finished. I think our problems, hopefully, are now over. You can see the runs of these ones here. When they see me, they go mad because they know I'm going to give them a fresh lump of grass. I'm moving them here every 2-3 days, giving them a wee bit, and it's just keeping the grass. Then there's enough in front of them, and they're content enough. They're full of ticks there. They're just spoiled. So this morning when I got up, the first thing I noticed on the grass was white. So you'd know the nights were definitely getting colder. But it's a nice day and it's supposed to be a good week ahead. So a little bit of planning. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move these girls. Originally I was just moving them up and up because I have this field already split. But this time I'm going to give them a bigger chunk. I'm going to come along here and go over this hedge because that fence that's down there, I want to actually leave that there now. When the heifers are moved and let in here, they're not going to go back down on what they've already at, because they are doing a little bit of tramping, especially around that ESB pole where they're itching and around the gateway. So I want to be fit to come in now that it's given a few dry days and be able to slurry that whole lower half, come up, leave them gates open. They can't come down, they can't cause any problem for me, and I can just get that slurried. Right, so that's our fence set up there now. Just had to come around in a bit of a loop with a couple of pegs just to get it to the hooks on. It's more of a straight angle to that wire and not hook off. Just moved that fence there also to the other side to keep their chewing mouths away from it. But when we get to this drinker here, I've had to take the valve out of it because it's always leaking. Now, I do have an off valve fitted on that there, so at least I can turn it off, but it was forever leaking. And these are the valves that I was using, and this is my third one. So it's a quick fill valve. Absolutely no luck with them. You might remember last year a video where I had the Vaseline out to put on these seals here to stop them from sticking, just to keep everything moving nice and easily. Again, didn't make any difference. Just never solved the problem. Always leaking. So I've changed it out for the old-fashioned brass fitting here. So we're just going to throw that on because I've had more luck with them than I've had with anything else. Well, a little bit more luck. So one thing I had to get also is a couple of big washers because there's a big opening on these drinkers. This guy on. You can see what I mean with the opening. That nut is going to go through that opening, so that's why a large washer is essential. It's not going to work without it. That's it, don't tighten it too tight because again you will crack the top of the drinker. This is the old elbow. That's enough, you don't have to over tighten them. Like that. The nut on. Okay, this is the old ball float. Put it on, it shouldn't be doing anything really. Neither it is. Yeah, that will last a lot longer, I have a feeling. Just when I was at this, I also like to pick up some fresh flowers for the house every morning. Okay. Habit of leaving that on. Right, so next batch of girls need to be addressed. So they've been in this field, which was our silage field, for the past maybe 2 weeks now, maybe more actually, because I've been strip grazing it, but they have it pretty well at. So what I want to do with them is I want to get them in here, and I want to get them into this crush and just give them a quick worm dose and put them back in here. So anything we wipe out today, we'll get passed out of them onto this paddock, and then we move them after a couple of days to a new fresh paddock where they're not re-ingesting the same stuff over again, if you know what I mean. So that gate just isn't always the easiest when you're on your own, so I'm hoping this might work out for me. I want to get a fence. I'm going to bring it across here and try to tunnel them into this gap here. Come on, six. This is my little bypass set up here. I might have to narrow it a wee bit. If Nicole was with me, I'd hold on to the reel and I would bring it round behind them so they can't go back. But anyway, let's see what happens here. Go on. Jeez, we're winning, hey, we're winning. Close this gate. Point of no return. The girls. Oh, straight in behind the crush too. You'd nearly swear I was paying you. Go on. There you go. Got that green. Alright. I did tell you I was doing this for worms, didn't I? Maybe a couple more. Go on. Go on in there. Go on up. That's it. That's enough. You go back. There we go. Right, all but 3. You just go back out to the field. Go on. Last 3. Go on. Come up. Okay. You have to be quick in this game. That's our calves done. They're just walking out here in front of me. Take this fence back down again, tidy everything up, put away all my doses, and then we'll get them mailed, head home. Now, people do ask me about this crush, and when I'm here I might as well explain. Curved wall is actually great to see where the calves are coming in, but the heifers get a little bit annoyed about going in. They don't like to go in. They start pushing back towards me here because they can see a field in front of them that way versus the wall in that corner, and they don't seem to like to go in there. They can be quite hard at times to get in, but for circulation wise it's brilliant to be able to bring that gate right around with the curvature of that round wall and just bring them straight up in the crush. It works great. I suppose we modifications I'll make to it is I might add a step of some sort here. Some people build concrete blocks on the ground, don't particularly want to do that, but if I could make maybe a step that would just kind of fold up and fold down maybe on the crush, it means that when you're working with young animals, you can step up without having to step up in the bar and balance yourself. You can step up like this here and be fit to maybe clip, put on, pour on, things like that, because that top bar is quite high and I find myself retching across it. I've had a few times when my feet has slipped off the bottom of it and you nearly go head first into the crush. This head gate here is like Marmite. Some people love them, some people hate them. I'm middle ground. You have to be careful with it because you could take the hand of yourself and animal can get stuck in it very easy as well. Yeah, it's alright. It does the job. Our little one at home does equally as good a job. A head scoop is what I will put on here and at home, just to make life a bit easier when we're trying to dose the cattle. And if the girls wanted to come over here and do them themselves, I didn't want them having to pull and wool trying to hold an animal's head. It'd be nice to have the head lifted up for them. But otherwise, minor things. I'm happy with it overall. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll leave it for a while. Let this dry up because it's given a bit of high pressure and a bit of better weather, and we've had to come over here and just slurry that bit there, and hopefully by the end of next week we'll have all our slurry right to the very ground emptied completely, and we'll be ready then, unfortunately, for housing cows, which won't be long because judging by my ears it is starting to get cold now, and colder at night especially. Days are getting shorter as well, so grass will naturally start to slow down, so the natural progression of winter won't be long coming. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.